Hello and welcome to our Corel course. We will be using CorelDraw X6, but you can use older versions. Nevertheless, you have to be aware that some of the elements can work differently or don't exist at all in older versions. For example, alignment guides is a new tool available from CorelDraw X6, and you won't have it on older versions. This also includes Smears tool. It doesn't exist in earlier CorelDraw versions. We won't list it here, all different elements that are new to CorelDraw X6. I just wanted to bring this fact to your attention. For maximal integrity within the course, you'll need CorelDraw X6. Before we start, I'll deactivate alignment guides so that we'll all start from the same place. What I want to do is go to the View menu, then go to Snap and disable all of the available options in it. Do just as I did. Snap to Objects, Snap to Guidelines, Snap to Baseline Grid, and all other elements should be disabled. We'll now open our first document. As you can see, I've already done it. To open a document, click File, then Open, and select this first file. What you'll need to do here is when you open your CorelDraw X6, watch what I'll be doing and then repeat these actions on your computer. Let's start by working within our first document. However, before we start, let's talk briefly about the look of this program. In other words, we'll now talk about the interface. Starting from the very top, we have the menu bar, then the standard toolbar, and the property bar. On the left, there's a toolbox. Last but not least, at the bottom, we can see the status bar. Now move your mouse to this empty space here, or here, on the menu bar. When you click with your right mouse button, a menu with a list of bars will appear. Standard bar, property bar, and toolbox, which is placed right here on the left. As we won't use the bottom status bar, we can deactivate it by clicking the tick next to it. We did this to gain more workspace on our screen. If you would like to bring it back the status bar, we just click on the empty space next to the standard toolbar and check the option Status Bar. Again, right mouse button and deactivate Status Bar. To bring this menu back, we click here on the menu bar or here. We can also do it right here. Here we have our standard toolbar. You can work with this bar, but I won't use it to gain more space on my screen. If you want, you can use the standard toolbar. It contains icons responsible for some of the basic actions. We can open a document and save it with them. We can print, go back, and so on. We'll now deactivate this bar, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to use it. If it happens that some bar will disappear, just bring up this menu. With the right mouse button, we can bring it back and then hide it again. For us, the most important bar is the property bar. This means this bar, the property bar. Another important bar that we use is the toolbox. This bar right here on the left. So the most important bar for us is, again, the property bar. Now let's use the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle. Our rectangle is now selected and, as you can see, the property bar has changed. It now shows the properties of the rectangle. If we draw a circle, the property bar will show the properties of a circle. Switch to cursor. In other words, switch to pick tool. Of course, I'll use this name interchangeably. Sometimes I will call it a pick tool, other times I'll call it a cursor. When we click on the rectangle, its properties will appear in the property bar. When we click on the circle, the property bar will change. We need to be careful and observe the bar because it will show us the properties of the currently selected figure. That's why it's so important for us. As you probably noticed, some icons on the toolbox have these small black triangles in the bottom right-hand corner. If the icon has such a triangle, it means that it contains more than one tool. You need to click on the icon and hold the mouse button. After a moment, you will see the available options. Once we summon this list by clicking on it and holding the mouse button, we can move to other icons and their list will appear automatically. But only the icons with these little black triangles have more than one option to choose from. Now click on the icon and hold the right mouse button. If you choose, for example, the knife tool, it will become the default tool for this icon. So once you did it, you don't have to hold the mouse button to choose knife tool. Just click once. Don't hold the mouse button and you can use the selected tool. Now we'll move to a main task. Select the two figures we created and delete them. Let's draw a rectangle and make it yellow. What can we do if we wanted every figure created to be in yellow? When we draw a circle, it's still white. It's the same with polygon, but there's a way to make them yellow immediately at the point of creation. You need to click on cursor or pick tool and click on an empty space so that there's no selection. In other words, first step is to deselect all the figures. When we don't have any figures selected, the bar at the top, this means the property bar, shows the default values. I like to split the state of this bar into two types. First one, when we select the figure, it then shows us the properties of that selected figure. Second is when there's nothing selected and the property bar shows us the default values. So it either shows us the default values or the values and properties of the selected object. Going back to our problem, when we click on the yellow colour, a message window will pop up. When this option, Graphic, is checked and we click OK, the new rectangle will be yellow. Circle and polygon will be yellow too. Reassuming from now on, new figures will be yellow. When we use the Bezier tool and we close our shape, it will also become yellow. Now we'll talk about how to go back and draw the figures without colour. Make sure that there's nothing selected and click on the colour you want to choose. We don't want any colour, so we need to click X on this icon. Another way to do this is click the Bucket Fill tool and choose from the appearing list option called No Fill. When you click on No Fill option and the window will pop up again, click OK. This means that our objects here, named graphics, will be from now on created without colour. That's how we can change the default options of this software. If you accidentally click here and then click OK, every figure will be grey. If you want to reverse this process, you have to select the cursor and make sure there's no selection. Click on the Fill tool, select No Fill and click OK. Now please select all the objects within the Pick tool and delete them. We'll now create our first figure for the graphic. Step 1. Click on the Rectangle tool and release with the mouse button. Now that we've selected the Rectangle tool, we can simply draw a rectangle. As you can see, there are some conversion handles. When we click on one and hold the mouse button, we can scale our figure without losing its proportions. When we do this in any other place, we simply create a new rectangle. To keep ourselves from doing that, let's switch to cursor. Now delete these two small figures. When we're using the cursor, we move our figure however we want without being obliged to click on its center. Just click anywhere inside the figure and drag it to move it. One part of our task is done. We've created a basic rectangle. We can scale it without losing its proportions when we use the corner handles, or scale it freely when we use the rest of the handles. We can also make the corners round by clicking on this icon and setting the value to 5. Let's change it to 15. Why it's changing all the corners, you might ask? It's because of this lock up here. When it's active, it changes all the corners. This includes left and right corner, here. Here we have the value for the left corner and here for the right. And here we have the bottom left and bottom right. If we unlock this with a lock, we can change each corner separately. We can choose from several types of corner formatting. These options include round corners, scalloped corners, and chamfered corners. Let's now set this value to 0. By doing that, we've converted our figure, so now its corners look the same as before. If we transform this rectangle into a different figure, we need to convert it to curves. We can do that by clicking Arrange from the menu bar and choosing the option Convert to Curves. We can also do that by using the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-Q. Yet another way to do this is to click the icon on the right at the end of the property bar. Let's now click on this option. As you've probably noticed, there's no visible change in our document. That's when the Shape tool comes in handy. This icon consists of more tools, but we'll now focus only on the Shape tool. As you remember, we use the cursor to work with the whole figure. The Shape tool, on the other hand, allows us to shape our figure the way we want it. Select the Shape tool and move your mouse over one of the nodes. Now drag the node. We just converted our rectangle into a different shape. If we now select the cursor, options responsible for corners shape will disappear. Now select the Shape tool. As you can see, the property bar changed entirely, and there's a bunch of new options on it. We can easily drag these nodes wherever we want. Another thing we can do here is to select a couple of nodes at once. Move your Shape cursor over the nodes. Next, to our shape cursor appeared some sort of a cross. This icon shows us that we can move our nodes. If we want to add a new node, we have to move our shape cursor over one of the lines connecting the two nodes. Next to the shape cursor appears a wave, signalizing that we're in the right place. Click twice and release the mouse button. We can now click and hold the button and drag this new node. Please remember that there are two different actions. Click twice. Maybe I'll move my cursor away from the node to illustrate it better. Now click on it, hold the mouse button and move the node. Clicking twice on an existing node deletes it. So to add a node, you have to click twice and release the mouse button. Then, to move the node, you click on it, hold the mouse button and drag it to its designated place. This way, we can, again, click twice, move the node, click twice, release the mouse button, then click, hold the mouse button and move the node. That's how we can add a node. You can add several nodes, one after another. Just click twice on various points on the line. Once you've created them, you can drag them to where you want. A task is to create a figure similar to the one on the left. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. If some nodes are in the wrong place, just click on it twice to delete it. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. If you want to move two or more nodes, first you have to select them. Next, you have to click on one of them. Remember not to click twice because this will delete them. Hold the mouse button and move them. Now let's talk about how to align the nodes. There's several ways to do that. For now, we'll learn only one technique. Select two bottom nodes and look for the Align Nodes icon in the property bar. Once the window will pop up, uncheck all options but horizontal align and click OK. We can use the same technique to align these nodes. Uncheck all the boxes but the one next to horizontal align and click OK. And that's how we create our first figure. If we want to move this figure, we need to switch to the Pick tool. Now we can move the whole figure. You could say that the Pick tool is a tool which allows us to work with figures in their entirety. If we want to rotate our figure, we need to click once and then slowly click again. Around the figure, you will see the arrows which will rotate the object. Of course, we can type the angle up here or play with skewing our figure. Now, let's see what will happen if we click twice faster than before. This action will switch us to the tool responsible for editing and creating the nodes, called Shape Tool. Now let's switch back to the cursor. Of course, if we want to edit the shape of our figures, we would need to switch back to Shape Tool. I will call this tool for a node tool or a shape tool. Now that we have our first figure ready, we can move to creating the rest of the objects.